Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second in our series of Speaking of Miracles. We are so excited to have everyone tuning in tonight. Last month was really exciting as we learned about how philanthropy is changing healthcare through research. And this month, we get to hear about how philanthropy is making a difference with a team that's very special to UF Health. This is our ShandsCair team. And so with me tonight, I've got a special guest who's going to tell us just a little more about what is ShandsCair, what does that really mean, and how does it work? So before we get started, I will go ahead and introduce myself. I am Jessica Lane. I'm the Director of Children's Miracle Network here at UF Health Shands Children's Hospital. And with me is Laurie Whidden. She's got a lot of acronyms and credentials behind her name, but she is the ShandsCair neonatal and pediatric team lead for our critical care transport team. So I will allow her in just a little bit to tell you more about what her day-to-day looks like, right? What that looks like within our hospital, within our emergency services, within our critical care services, and how you all, as our donors, as our partners, as our program fundraisers, are helping make their jobs possible with the equipment, with the technology, right? With just being able to provide that service. But before we get started, I do want to go ahead and show a fun video that'll tee it up just for you a little bit more before we have her tell us what that looks like. So I'll turn it over right now. Well, I watch that and I get goosebumps for all of the things that you all are able to do for the children and families, not just in Gainesville and the surrounding area, but the Southeast and really beyond. So I will stop talking and turn it over to you, Laurie, to tell us a little bit about all the stuff that we just saw. But first, tell us about you and how you came to be a part of our UF Health ShandsCair critical care team.
Thank you, Jessica. First of all, thank you, everybody, for being here and participating in this event tonight. I appreciate you inviting me to speak. I am one of the neonatal pediatric nurses for ShandsCair. There is a team of about 14 of us, and that includes some part-time people. We provide care to kids 5 and under. We don't do the trauma stuff per se, so you're not going to see us on the side of the road, at a car accident for the most part. We do have another component of our team, our adult pediatric team, which they take care of kids over 6. We're kind of the under the 6, they're over 6. And those are the guys that you're going to see at the accident scenes and stuff like that. Most of our stuff is hospital to hospital. And for the adult team, they do about 50% hospital to hospital, about 50% scene work. I started many, many moons ago in our neonatal ICU. And after being there for about 8 years, a position opened up for our transport team. And at first I didn't make the team. It was for a PRN alternate position. And we had some really great people that applied for that. And unfortunately for me, it wasn't my turn. That being said, about 3 months later, a full-time position became available. And never having really done it, I took a big leap of faith and And here I am 23 years later. So it has been such a blessing to do this job. It has been a lot of fun. I have worked with some amazing people. And thanks to people like you, we've been able to provide state-of-the-art care with equipment that we've needed. So we all greatly thank you for that and all your fundraising efforts.
Well, we are so grateful that you have been on our team for so many years and are really helping, lead us now. And so you mentioned, right, we're not going to see your team, on the side of the road, right, in that sort of
Not
way.
usually.
Right, exactly, right. We've all seen those ambulances. So talk to us about kind of what happens inside of one of these trucks, right? Or when you get a call, what does that look like?
So our ambulances, a lot of people have probably seen them if they're around the North Central Florida area. Our ambulances are orange and blue, of course, being affiliated with the University of Florida. We travel anywhere about 2.5 hours distance in any direction to pick up kids. Anything greater than that, we're looking to go by helicopter or by plane. And actually now that distance is probably a little bit less just because we have one team on a day. All of our teams do 24-hour shifts. So we're there available, ready to go whenever somebody needs us, of course, unless we're on another transport. But depending on the needs, we could divert and go to a sicker child that may need us prior, instead of one that's not quite as sick, if that makes sense. Our ambulances have everything that we could need. It's basically a mobile ICU. All of the equipment that we could need is in there for some advanced skills like airways, IV access, that kind of thing. We have all that available to us. And ideally, we would like to have a patient nice and tucked in before we leave the facility. But things happen. Airways come out, IVs come out. And so we have everything available to us so we can put those back in if we need to. The same with our helicopter, the same with our airplane that we have available to us. We typically, what a day might look like for us is we come in the morning, we have some chores that we have to do, checking off our ambulance, checking our equipment. We have a morning and an evening briefing just because we have 2 different pilots throughout the day. FAA regulations only let them fly so many hours. So whenever we have a new pilot come on, we do have a safety briefing with the pilot, with our adult team, and actually with all of our ShandsCair teams that are located throughout the state of Florida. So after that, it's kind of hurry up and wait mode. We get a call, we triage, we get some patient information, and depending on how critical the patient is, where the patient is, weather, big thing is weather, we decide which way we're going to go to get our patients. Sometimes that's flying, sometimes that's driving.
Wow. And now when we're getting these calls, right, they're coming from mainly hospitals in Florida and sort of the southern Georgia area, or how far is that reach?
Pretty much all over. Most part, it's the state of Florida, the southeast. Sometimes we'll go into Alabama. Sometimes it's South Georgia, Valdosta area, a couple of things like that. We've basically been all over the world, though. Our adult team probably more so than us, but I know our neonatal pediatric team, we've been to the Bahamas, we've been to the Dominican Republic, California, Colorado, New York, Boston, Texas. I mean, we've been everywhere. Those don't typically happen super quick. There's a lot of logistical planning involved in that, with finances and making sure we have a plane available, making sure the patient's accepted, insurance, all that kind of stuff has to be put into play before we can just take off and go for some of those longer distance transports. Those within the state, usually as soon as we can get a plane available to us, which is usually within 2 to 3 hours, we're able to go and get the patient and bring the patient back to UF Health. Now, there are some rare occasions that we do pick up a patient from one facility and we'll take them to another facility just for different reasons. Maybe we don't have the service that they need at our hospital, but we've kind of contracted with some other hospitals that will allow us to do that.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. I think, right, because we're at the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure that each of these patients is in the very best place for their medical care. And I know,
Absolutely.
right, for us at UF Health Shands, we often are that place, right, for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these families,
Mm-hmm.
especially throughout Florida. I know at the end of our fiscal year, every year, we get to see where all of the patients have come from, right, the different counties in our state. Last year, we had almost all but one county in the state of Florida had patients coming to our hospital. And
Mm-hmm.
Florida can be a long state, right? So that's a long way that
Mm-hmm.
patients are traveling
Mm-hmm.
and coming in. We had every state in the United States, and I think it was 6 countries around the world that had patients, pediatric patients, right,
Mm-hmm.
coming to us. And many come through all sorts of ways, but
Right.
oftentimes through, right, your team. So you did share some really fun photos. So I want to pull some of those up and have you kind of talk us, through kind of what are we looking at here, or share more about what we're seeing.
Okay. This was from the rooftop helipad on the North Tower, which is typically the children's hospital, if you will. All of our pediatric areas are located in that tower. The UF Health system has 3 towers in Gainesville, but we're typically located in the North Tower. So this is 3 of my teammates are loading up one of our isolettes, one of our beds, or incubator is another word people might use to might be more familiar with. It helps to keep babies warm. It's got all of the monitoring equipment and other equipment we might need to help take care of a baby. That's what they're loading into the ambulance. The blue piece of equipment you see in the front is what we call a critical device. It is a temperature management device. So if we have a baby born through some pretty difficult circumstances, they might be neurologically devastated. This device helps to lower the baby's body temperature to a preset temperature, and it's to help prevent any further neurological damage that the baby may suffer if we didn't provide that therapy. And not many places offer that. Not many places transport with that. So that's what we're getting ready to go transport a patient with that now. So once they get the bed secured in there, then they would lift that critical device and secure it in the back of that helicopter as well.
These are some tight quarters in these helicopters, or at least it looks like, between all the equipment and all the people, right? I mean, I can imagine it's probably pretty cramped in there.
That helicopter was actually the biggest one that I've flown in the 23 years that I've been flying. Unfortunately, we don't have her anymore. I lovingly refer to her as the Beast. There she is again. Just a different view. She was actually pretty good to work with, taking care of some of the sickest patients that we've had with multiple IV pumps, multiple other pieces of equipment that are not a part of that sled that you see being loaded into the aircraft at this time. But we make do. We make it work. It does get a little bit cramped, but it's a lot better for our patients to get them where they need to be in a timely fashion.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And then I think, right, we've got here one, of course, in the air.
Mm.
And there was one you shared, I think it might, to all of our Gator fans, right? I mean,
Yes, yes.
is this also the Beast, or is this a different one?
That was the Beast. She is a EC Eurocopter 155-155. She had a range that we could go to anywhere in the state. Essentially, we could go to Pensacola or as far south as Miami with her without refueling. It was about a 2-hour flight, which is a long time in a helicopter. But we were able to do that, weather permitting and time permitting, of course. But we were able to get to patients a lot quicker sometimes than or in about the time that it would take us to get a plane available to us. So that was a nice thing about her. The picture that you just had up was an EC 135. That's the one. That's what we are currently in right now. So it's a little bit smaller, doesn't quite have the range that we had with the 155. In this aircraft, we can probably go, depending on our patient and crew configuration, we can probably go definitely as far as Tallahassee. But sometimes with weight and balance, if we have a bigger patient, bigger child that we don't need that incubator for, we can go as far as Panama City. And probably definitely as far south as St. Pete, Tampa, Fort Myers area with that without refueling as well. So,
Oh,
and we actually were in We were in an aircraft like that one when we did some hurricane aid after Hurricane Ian last year. Gosh, was that last year? Where we actually helped evacuate some patients from a hospital in Fort Myers and took them over to a hospital in West Palm Beach.
Oh, wow. I remember, I think that was Golisano Children's Hospital, which also happens to be another Children's Miracle Network hospital.
It was.
And yeah, that was tough. And so I think, right, people don't generally think about all the ways that hospitals across the state or across a region are so connected, right, with care,
Correct.
regardless of where your particular loved one is getting care. Whether it's through getting them to a different facility, right, through teams like yours, or I know I've heard our COO, right, even talk about how we'll consult with another hospital system if they do call us wanting to transfer a patient or think that they need to be with us if we can't get them right away, or if maybe we think we can help with them with a level of care without having to bring them to our hospital, you know, pulling in the appropriate team. So it's great that we have these resources available to us, as well as the personnel. And this one, I know this isn't the most recent ShandsCair 8, but I love this photo of all of the team on board.
Right. This was a former ShandsCair 8. And this was one of the photo shoots that we did, and we just had a lot of fun. And again, you know, thank you again, Children's Miracle Network. You can see the balloon on the side. You helped provide funds for that. That was a well-loved, well-used ambulance. And she has since been retired. She's had many, many years, many, many miles on her. But we have another one that's a little bit bigger than that one. We can actually put 2 beds in there. So if we have twins, we can put 2 incubators in it. We typically won't do patients that aren't related, so they need to be usually twins. We don't typically do many requests for siblings or anything like that, but we could if we needed to. But then we would probably grab another team member to go with us. Our team, the neonatal pediatric team, we are configured with a nurse and then a respiratory therapist. We love our respiratory therapists. We couldn't do this job without them. And then our adult team, our adult pediatric team, is made up of a dual certified nurse paramedic and a paramedic. So you kind of have the best of both worlds there, where you have someone that's got some ICU experience and some, as we say, street experience with scene work and stuff like that. And then the paramedic, of course, has lots of experience with accidents and scene work and stuff like that as well. Now, we can build a team for whatever patient we need, for whatever our patient needs are. We've done maternal transports before, where the adult team will go with us, or one of them will go with us, or one of us will go with them. It just depends on the circumstances. The adult team would take care of the mom. We would be there if she delivered while we were in transport. I've done several of those over the years. The one that's really sticking out in my mind right now was we actually did a maternal fixed wing transport. We took a mom who was pregnant with triplets, who was having some issues. And we took her from Pensacola to a major children's hospital in Houston that specialized in what she needed help with her twins, with 2 of her twins. She had a set of twins and a singleton in there. So the twins were having some issues. So we were able to transport her with an adult team and with us. That was pretty tight quarters in there. And thankfully we got her there safely and didn't have any issues en route. After that, I unfortunately don't know what happened. I think hopefully everything was okay with her. But we will build a team to suit your needs. And if we can't go by air, or if it's close enough, we would load up in our ambulance that we could accommodate mom, and also have an incubator isolate with us in case something happened and we had to deliver the baby.
It's incredible when you think about all that's happening inside of these. I mean, they're basically, right, kind of like ICUs, if you will, sort of on wheels, right? And so they also have one of our units, right? We're able to transport patients if they're already on ECMO and coming to our facility. Can you talk a little bit about what that sort of looks like, or what that means for people listening who have no idea what ECMO is?
ECMO is essentially heart-lung bypass, or it could be just lung bypass. It depends on what's going on with the patient. If there is some kind of issue where the patient's lungs aren't functioning properly, and the ventilator's just not doing it for them. The lungs need time to heal. So we will put them on this essentially heart-lung bypass where blood is circulated. I won't say it's pumped out, pumped back in, because it's not like we take it all out, put it back in. It's circulated outside of the body. It goes through what we call the membrane oxygenator, which ECMO stands for extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, basically outside the body, blood being oxygenated with a membrane. So blood is circulated through this membrane. We control how much oxygen and carbon dioxide goes through that membrane, and then it's warmed back up and goes back into the patient. We can do that, like I said, for cardiac reasons, for respiratory reasons, and we do this for kids and adults as well. We would take the bigger ambulance if we are unable to go by fixed wing, just again, depending on the distance. If we had the 155, we were able to do that as well in the 155. A little bit too tight in the 135 because we do take what we call an ECMO specialist with us. And that person has had extensive training with that machine and with the medications and everything that we deliver with that machine. So we do actually need the space that we would have in the ambulance so we could have an extra crew member or two with us, just depending on what's going on. So yeah, those are a lot of fun. Those are sometimes long, sometimes very time consuming. Usually once they're on ECMO, they're fairly stable and we're able to kind of turn down the ventilator, let the lungs heal, and then hopefully wean them off the ECMO machine and then they can go on.
Yeah, I know. Well, and that's kind of right. I think in some of these next ones here, we've got some equipment, right? Or some sample equipment here. And to kind of why we're sharing some of what your team does, right, is that philanthropy makes what we do in our nonprofit hospital possible, right? And people have their own ideas of hospitals and the healthcare, systems. But as a children's hospital and a nonprofit children's hospital, we rely heavily on community support to make everything happen inside of our hospital. On the day-to-day, as well as for anything for advancements, right? When we have that surplus from donations from all of that, we can reinvest that back in. We can upgrade the equipment, get the new technology, whatever that might be. And so, I have this slide. I think you sent maybe another one here, right? So what is this? We're looking at an isolette here, or what are we looking at?
That is an isolette or an incubator. The panel on the left, if you will, with all the knobs, that's a ventilator. That's how we can give respiratory support to our patients. The part in the middle is the part that actually controls the incubator isolate temperature. It is a double wall system, so air is circulated between the two walls of those plastic panels that you see, and it helps to keep the baby warm. The part on the far right is a monitor that we have. It helps to monitor heart rate, respiratory rate, blood pressure, oxygen saturation, that sort of thing. The previous picture we had probably used for a PR event, and we have a baby doll that we put in there just so people can see what it would look like with a child in there. We also have on the ends that are kind of sticking up, these are older versions of IV pumps that we used in the past, syringe pumps, so we can give the baby IV fluids, medications, anything like that. There's a little gooseneck light on the back that we would use just to help if we needed to see the patient better, or let mom and dad see the patient if we've taken the baby to see mom in her room and it's a little bit dark in there. We carry oxygen and air tanks with us. If we need to, there's a special gas called nitric oxide that we can carry with us. If babies are having a hard time breathing, the vessels going to the lungs are staying clamped down. They're not opening up and allowing the blood flow to go to the lungs. That gas, nitric oxide, will help dilate those vessels, relax those vessels, so the blood can flow more easily to the lungs and it can be oxygenated and circulated back to the body like it should be. And I think that's about everything that's on that picture. That's just
I think so. Yeah, I think that's just the zoomed out vision. Yeah. I know I have a couple more questions. We do have a few more minutes, but I also want to let folks know that if you do have any questions, you're able to put those into the chat. You can put those into, you can also text them if you'd like. So I'll kind of add that here, but if you're logged into YouTube and you're watching this, you can put them right into the chat. We'll see them. If you would like to submit a question for Laurie, you can do that. Just text chat live to 41372, put your question in there. We'll get it over to Laurie. I was so intrigued in what you were saying that I didn't remind folks that that was an option, and wanted to put that out there. I know one thing that we get asked about your team, and you touched on it earlier a little bit, kind of the why you maybe got involved or things you were looking for, but really what's the most rewarding part of your job? What do you just really love that keeps you going each day?
For me, it's just being able to see patients get where they need to be. Sometimes we can take parents with us. If they're able to go. Sometimes we get babies that are newly born. Moms can't leave the hospital yet. They haven't been discharged. We don't take parents in the helicopter, though, so don't be asking for a helicopter ride. But we can take them on the plane or in the ambulance. But the other thing that's really rewarding for me is we can go pick up a very sick patient, a very tiny patient. I'm very blessed that I have access to our neonatal ICU. And so I'm in there fairly often. So I can kind of go and check on patients, see the parents, find out how the patients are doing, and just, knowing that they're getting the best possible care from our ICU and seeing those kids grow and get bigger and go home is just so rewarding for me. That is one thing I do miss about being at the bedside, like I used to be, but I still kind of get the best of both worlds. So this is it's a fun job. With some great people. It's a little bit more autonomy. We work under protocol, so a little bit more autonomy. So that's just something that's very rewarding to me.
I love that. I think we of course don't get to interact with patients on the day-to-day in our Children's Miracle Network team or in our development office. We have wonderful ambassador families who make up our Miracle Family program. But outside of that, we really see that through the work that you all do and the stories that you all share with us. But all of that, I think, is really what makes everyone at UF Health keep going, right? Because we see those changes, we see that advancement. You've seen it over many years, what it looks like for patients who maybe are in similar situations, but outcomes look different for patients now because we have different resources. Knowledge, technology, whatever that might be. So knowing that we rely so much on philanthropy, knowing, we've helped purchase equipment, and by we, I just get to be the person that takes photos and tells people about it, but it's the donors who are watching, it's our partners who are asking at their registers, We've got this month, we've got ACE who's going to be asking customers to round up. We've got Loves who are asking people, to round up or make a donation. Great Clips, IHOP, so many just wrapped up campaigns for us. So without those dollars, without that individual support, without those corporations making these contributions, what do you think your team's limitations might be? What would without that philanthropy, would you see as obstacles to do the work that you all do?
A truck, for one thing, an ambulance. We might not have a newer ambulance. We might have to rely on an older ambulance with more maintenance needs. We might not have more of the state-of-the-art IV pumps, ventilators, isolates to help transport those babies and take care of them as well as we do. We're also able to use those funds to provide help or resources for them in the hospital as well, with the breathing machines, the ventilators, with the monitors. So we've been able to purchase some monitors that have a little module that's about this big. So if patients need to go to a procedure in-house, to radiology, to MRI, you don't have to worry about carrying a big bulky monitor. It's just a little tiny box about this big, and you're able to monitor the patients just as well as if they were in their bed spaces in the ICU. So yes, thank you. We've been able to purchase a lot of equipment that we've been able to use to take better care of our patients.
And it sounds like, too, that type of technology, where we're making something a little bit smaller, easier to get to patients, it's also making it better for our team members, right? Because if we can be better and more efficient and not require each individual to be lugging larger technology, it's a weight and a load on them. we make sure that we have caregivers, that we're taking care of our caregivers too, right?
Right.
And that you all stay around longer to serve those patients and those families. Well,
Absolutely.
I will just wrap it to say, is there anything else that you would like to share with our Children's Miracle Network partners or donors and supporters before we wrap up tonight?
Just thank you so much for all that you do for our hospital and the other partner hospitals in the organization. I was fortunate enough about 2 months ago, I guess it was, to meet some of the dance marathon folks. And it was very exciting to hear how much fundraising that they've done. I had no idea. Some of these guys started in high school and have continued on through college. And that's just been such a blessing for me to hear those stories. I got to meet several, I say kids, college kids that were in nursing programs that, asked some good questions about equipment that we use and what does it take to do this job. And so hopefully we've got some future neonatal pediatric transport team members out there. But thank you all so much for everything that you do to help take care of our kids and help us to get those kids to the facilities that they need in the quickest possible manner with the best equipment. We all greatly appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Laurie. And we appreciate you taking time to share more about your team and the work that you all do. We can go into places and tell them all how, wonderful we think UF Health is.
Thanks.
But we're biased, of course.
Of course.
But we can never tell the stories, the testimonials, right, from our team members and from our families the way that you all can. So I appreciate you taking time out of your night. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I know we've got some folks who are going to be watching this in the days and the weeks ahead who couldn't join us tonight. And I know that they're going to appreciate having this to go back and see how their donations, whether, their own private donations or by being a fundraiser for our hospital are making a difference. So we appreciate you and everyone watching. So thank you so much. And we hope to see you all on Speaking for Miracles in December. It'll be December 5th, and we'll be hearing from our social work team. So thank you all and have a great night.
Thank you. Have a great night.